All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Occult Perspectives. What I do on here is I talk about different esoteric research subjects, Freemasonry, Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, archangels, you name it, we talk about it on here. I also cover different books as well, which is part of what I'm going to do in this video. Well, that's pretty much what this video is about. Covering the Divine Comedy, specifically Dante's Inferno. I have a whole playlist on this book already. So if you have not gone and checked out any of those old videos, I recommend you go ahead and check those out. First, I have two versions of the Divine Comedy. This is the one I recommend people really get and read. This is the best translation. This is Everyman's Library version, translated by Alan Mandelbaum, the Divine Comedy, so you get all three parts. This is the much prettier book, to be honest. The artwork and everything is really, really gorgeous. Actually, it has gold pages. There's a picture of Dante in here. I'll show you a couple of other illustrations leading up to where we are in the book. In the last video I did on Dante's Inferno, it was honestly like over 2 years ago now. It's been a while, so I'm just going to start from Canto 3. I'm going to start back over on Canto 3, and we'll just try to do Canto 3 and 4 in this video. There's Dante wandering through the woods. So we've covered this. We've covered like the symbolism of all this stuff in previous videos. Here's the panther. Then you've got the lion. I think the panther and the leopard can be, those two are synonymous. And then you have like a she-wolf. I think that's the other animal. Have that illustration. So yeah, as you can see, the pictures are really pretty in this book, whereas in this book, the illustrations are just kind of bland. But the reason you want this book is because it's a much more modern translation. It makes a lot more sense if you try to read this book or this version. See, like these kind of illustrations, they just aren't. You can even try to pause the video and look at it, but you just can't even really, there's not like a whole lot to it. So it's not a really pretty book. There we go. It's taking a minute to focus on the page. I mean, they're cool little abstract illustrations. But what makes this version really valuable is the notes that are in the back. So there's notes accompanying each canto. So. And just as a fun side note, basically Paradise, I'll read from the notes of Paradiso 1. So in Paradiso, it's the ascent of Beatrice and Dante from the earthly paradise, Mount Kuth, on the Tree of Life. The heaven, the infinite heaven, which is the Empyrean, beyond the spheres. So when, obviously, those who know about Kabbalah, the Empyrean is the outer veil, which is your Ein Sof or Ein Sof and Ein. The Paradiso is structured on ancient Greek astronomy as systematized by Ptolemy, 2nd century AD. The Earth is stationary in the center of the universe in the old cosmology system. Around it revolved 9 transparent circular spheres bearing the visible heavenly bodies: the Moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and the fixed stars. So obviously this is the same order, moving from Malkuth up to Kether. The fixed stars is at this level, Hokmah. Beyond which is the Primum Mobile. The Primum Mobile is synonymous with Kether. It's the same thing. The first moved heaven, or crystalline heaven as it's called. Interesting that when they talk about like Metatron visualizations, when you visualize Metatron, they say to visualized like a crystal throne, and he has crystal white robes that he wears. If you're interested in this music too, by the way, the music is called A Place to Heal When You Feel Lost. Witcher orchestral ambient for focus and relaxation. No ads. It's on YouTube. It's just really pretty music. The music from Witcher 3 is really awesome, and I just started playing the game like a couple days ago. And it's a pretty good game so far. Some people say it's like one of the best games they've ever played. So getting back to this real quick. So the Primum Mobile is the first moved heaven or crystalline heaven which exists in the Empyrean. So okay, they consider, I guess, Kether to be a part of the Primum Mobile. Through these and their light, God's creative power and providence in the natural order are transmitted down to the earth. So, as above, so below, from Kether to Malkuth. Through these, Dante has ascended to the infinite source of light, the power, wisdom, and love of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Having returned to earth, he must now describe that ascent and its crescendo of experiences above all of light. This will be the supreme poetic challenge. Since the supernatural knowledge, love, and ecstatic happiness of paradise are beyond the powers of the human mind to grasp, of human language to express, even of his memory to retain. Throughout the Paradiso, Dante restates this fundamental motif. The reality of heaven infinitely exceeds his powers to describe it in his poem. So I just thought that would be a cool little side note to read. Getting back to Inferno now. It's going to show you all the illustrations in this book leading up to Canto 3, which is where we're going to start off. The subtitle for this picture says, "Then he moved on, and I behind him followed." They're heading towards the cave, which can also be symbolic of really, because the Inferno, the 9 rings of hell, it could be seen as like the shells on the tree of death, the Qliphothic tree, in a lot of ways. And then in Paradiso, that can be seen as, in a way, ascending the tree of life and reaching Kether. Dante and Virgil. So as you can see, these illustrations are really pretty. Dante and Beatrice, it looks like. Beatrice, am I who do bid thee go? There we go, it's better focus there. Alright, and then Canto 3. All hope abandon ye who enter in. So the gates of hell are said to be, there's an illustration of it. It's really kind of dark. But if any of you are interested, I recommend playing Dante's Inferno, the video game, if you have not. So the story's quite a bit different, but a lot of the visualizations are different too. Like the gates of hell are quite different. And Charon, who is, I think, is that the name of the, yeah, he's the guy who takes souls across the river Acheron. But in the game, he's actually the boat itself that the souls are on, and it's actually really kind of creepy, the visualizations in the video game. But there's also a free anime. I believe it's on YouTube. If you just look up Dante's Inferno animation, you should be able to watch the whole thing. So definitely be sure to check that out. All right, so Canto 3. A summary of the chapter: the inscription above the gate of hell, the anti-inferno, where the shades of those who live without praise and without blame now intermingle with the neutral angels. So that's kind of an interesting term. He who made the great refusal, the river Acheron, Charon, Dante's loss of his senses as the earth trembles. Okay, so that's a summary of the entire chapter. It's not super duper long, so let's go ahead and just plug right through it. I'm going to find the accompanying notes for this chapter 2. Canto 3, there we go. So this is the entry into hell, the gate, and the river Acheron. Through me the way into the suffering city, through me the way to the eternal pain, through me the way that runs among the lost. Justice urged on my high artificer. My maker was divine authority, the highest wisdom, and the primal love. Primal love kind of sounds like primum mobile too, which is Kether, which would be, like ultimate love or ultimate unity. Let's read the notes real quick. Actually, let me go ahead and read the rest of that. Before me, nothing but eternal things were made, and I endure eternally. Abandon every hope who enter here. These words, their aspect was obscure, I read inscribed above a gateway. And I said, Master, their meaning is difficult for me. So this is Dante talking to his guide, Virgil. The term my high artificer. Artificer is obviously like a craftsman. So like Tubal Cain is a biblical figure he's an artificer of metals, brass, things of that nature. My high artificer, God, who created hell as the place of ultimate justice where all those who die without having repented of serious mortal sins will be punished eternally for them. So obviously, we're going to be viewing on this channel, more from hell as being more a state of being, rather than like a literal place that you go before you die. Think of like inner dimensions. When it comes to like the tree of death, we all have hellish dimensions within us. When it comes to the tree of life, in our internal reality and our external reality. So you have like the tree of death type experiences, then you have the tree of life type experiences. You have all of these things. I wouldn't say there's just cut and dry like a heaven and a hell. Obviously, souls reincarnate. There's a reincarnation process, so it's not so cut and dry. So it's important to remember that this whole story of Dante, and some people I think say that this book is based on Dante having like some like visions, like afterlife type visions. I don't know how true that is. Some people say that Dante was like a Templar, so I'm not sure like what secret societies he was in per se, but he may have gone through some kind of he may have gone through some type of ritual where they where they work through the tree of life spheres or something. I know he was like part of the Catholic Church, but who knows, they may have been doing like Kabbalistic practices as well. Maybe Dante had a more advanced understanding of these principles than we originally thought. So I think there is a book out there that talks about his connection with Templarism, so that would definitely be something that would be interesting to look into. But yeah, when we refer to hell, I'm viewing it more from like an archetypal state of being. Yes, there are probably dimensions that are like that, same with like heavenly dimensions, but I'm not really viewing it from the religious aspect of things. I think you can understand where I'm coming from there. So this is what he's depicting as more of like a medieval like depiction of heaven and hell, or a Christian kind of version of the world. But we want to understand this story more from an archetypal perspective, understanding it as like the journey of the soul through through hell, through the deeper realms of the unconscious, and then entering the state of purgatory, and then building upon that, and then you can actually ascend the tree the proper way, like that. So it's the total experience, it's the total story. You're getting everything. So with the entire Divine Comedy. So just take all that into consideration. So lines 5 to 6, we already read, allude to the doctrine of the Trinity, that is, of God as three persons in one. We know this in all different kinds of religious traditions, spiritual traditions. In Christianity, it's the Father, the wisdom of the Son, and the love of the Holy Spirit. Interesting, because wisdom is usually associated with Father type energy. But they say the power of the Father here. So power is Gebura. Typically wisdom, it says wisdom of the Son, wisdom would be Hokmah, and then the love of the Holy Spirit. So that would be like the divine feminine. Eternal things, the angels, the heavens, and prime matter created by God in the very beginning. Interesting that it says hell was created later, when many angels, led by Lucifer, rebelled against God and were cast down into it from paradise. And obviously the way I perceive like the whole angels thing and fallen angels thing, and these are just different archetypes of creation playing out their roles. Lucifer is a very like necessary archetypal experience. That archetypal energy, not only what it represents, but the cosmic energy, the social memory complex, represents something very ancient. It has a very important role to play. So it's not so simple as the common fallen angel story, that's normally told. So there's always a deeper lens to understand these forces through. That's why when I try to go through this Inferno, we'll get into like kind of the more deeper perspectives of things. Remember that, God created all things. So if there's a rebellious spirit, it's just like any, child. Ultimately, we want to be like our parents, right? So there's this striving to be just as good as God, if not better. So this archetype of perfecting, of trying to be the ultimate, the best, it's just one side of the coin. And then the other side is like a giant humility, all of these sorts of things. But I think through the trials of pride and then having that quote fall, that the Christian mythology says about Lucifer, there's like a lesson that a lot of us go through in that. But yeah, the actual spirit or archetypal energy of what Lucifer is not, it's not really explained very well by the fallen angel story. So we'll try not to get into that, because that's a really deep subject. That's a highly misunderstood thing. But we've definitely talked about what that is on a deeper level on this channel. But I'm going to continue, because I am just rambling at this point. So Dante says to Virgil, Master, their meaning is difficult for me, and he to me as one who comprehends. Let me rewind real quick. My maker was divine authority, the highest wisdom, and the primal love. We already read this, but before me nothing but eternal things were made, and I endure eternally. So those eternal things are the angels, the heavens, and the prime matter created by God in the very beginning. My maker was divine authority, the highest wisdom, and the primal love. Before me nothing but eternal things were made, and I endure eternally. Abandon every hope who enter here. Master, their meaning is difficult for me, and he to me as one who comprehends. Here one must leave behind all hesitation. Here every cowardice must meet its death. So there's no way around. It's like every dark aspect has to be embraced, as they go through basically the tours of these different levels of hell. For we have reached the place of which I spoke, where you will see the miserable people, those who have lost the good of the intellect. What's he mean by this? The good of the intellect is God as infinite truth, the object of intellectual vision and paradise, which the souls in hell have lost forever. So it's an interesting concept there. It's like they don't have that spark of the divine. They don't have that will, almost, that yearning to have gnosis or knowledge of anything higher, or to basically seek after any spiritual truth, any actual truth. So that this intellect, this higher spiritual understanding, we could almost call it, has become lost by these souls that are stuck in hell, essentially. So yeah, once again, think about what all this means on a practical level, and the vibration of all the events and all the people that are going on the earth right now. How can you relate this story of Inferno to what's going on, on the earth right now? Think about all the crazy things that are happening. Think about where people's minds and stuff are. Things have been dark. So it's through understanding stories and things of this nature, we realize, it helps us realize where we're at on our own individual journeys as we go forward. And when with gladness in his face he placed his hand upon my own to comfort me. So this is Virgil placing his hand upon Dante. He drew me in among the hidden things. Here sighs and lamentations. Yeah, lamentations, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Here sighs and lamentations and loud cries were echoing across the starless air, so that as soon as I set out, I wept. Strange utterances, horrible pronouncements, accents of anger, words of suffering, and voices shrill and faint, and beating hands, all went to make a tumult that will whirl forever through that turbid, timeless air, like sand that eddies when a whirlwind swirls. And I, my head oppressed by horror, said, Master, what is it that I hear? Who are those people so defeated by their pain? And he to me, this miserable way is taken by the sorry souls of those who lived without disgrace and without praise. They now commingle with the coward angels, the company of those who were not rebels, nor faithful to their God, but stood apart. So let's read the notes on these parts. Those of the neutral or cowardly in life chose neither good nor evil. Oh, we're not even that. Oh yeah, I did read that part. I'm sorry, I thought that said 30 or 55, not 35. That was line 35. So Canto 3, line 35. Those, the neutral or cowardly, who in life chose neither good nor evil, have left neither fame nor infamy behind them, and who are rejected not only by heaven, but even by hell. Because you are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I shall begin to vomit you from my mouth. This is a Revelation quote. On his visit to the underworld, Aeneas saw similar crowds of souls, those of the unburied. I've tried to read the Aeneid by Virgil, but it's a really hard read. It's actually way harder to read, in my opinion, than the Divine Comedy. It's almost better to just get on YouTube and watch some summaries about it. You could try to read it yourself, but it is really difficult. Dante adapts several elements of this episode from Book 6 of the Aeneid. And then 37, coward angels, the angels who remain neutral in Lucifer's rebellion. So it's they couldn't quite decide if they wanted to face, or it's souls that really couldn't find a polarity. Because ultimately, we're all a mix of kind of positive and negative polarizations going on. But eventually we're going to have to, as physical beings, we kind of have to choose, lean towards one way or the other, so to speak. Even if you're a gray magician, kind of deal. So it's at the end of the day, there's, I guess you could say, the real metaphorical lesson in this is that you have to choose a path. You have to move forward. You kind of have to decide what you stand for, what your morals are, all of those sorts of things. What are your core values, all of those sorts of things. So being indifferent to those things and not really choosing a path or a side or anything at all to stand for, that's kind of what's really being represented here, I feel like. So let's go ahead and continue reading this chapter. Well, we got a little bit of ways to go still. This will probably be like an hour and a half video. Yeah, we're already at 24 minutes, so I'm going to try to continue on. They now commingle with the coward angels, the company of those who were not rebels nor faithful to their God, but stood apart. The heavens, that their beauty not be lessened, have cast them out, nor will deep hell receive them. Even the wicked cannot glory in them. And I, what is it, Master, that oppresses these souls, compelling them to wail so loud? He answered, I shall tell you in few words. Those who are here can place no hope in death, and their blind life is so abject that they are envious of every other fate. The world will let no fame of theirs endure. Both justice and compassion must disdain them. Let us not talk of them, but look and pass. And I, looking more closely, saw a banner that, as it wheeled about, raced on so quick that any respite seemed unsuited to it. Behind that banner trailed so long a file of people I should never have believed that death could have unmade so many souls. After I had identified a few, I saw and recognized the shade of him who made, through cowardice, the great refusal. At once I understood with certainty this company contained the cowardly. Okay. At line 63 now, let me go ahead and read some of the notes. Behind that banner, the following of a banner is an eternally ironic expression of the neutrals' lack of any commitment in life. So yeah, the symbolism here is that they, ironically, they continue to follow a banner. I saw a banner. Behind that banner trailed a long file of people. And basically they're just following this thing, this banner, I guess. That's just kind of the ironic symbolism. I guess interpret that how you will. It's an eternally ironic expression of the neutral's lack of any kind of commitment. So yeah, really not commitment to anything. Him who made the great refusal, they mentioned too. After I had identified a few, I saw and recognized the shade of him who made through cowardice the great refusal. There's a couple different people they think that this might be. Usually identified as Pope Celestine V, who abdicated after a reign of only 5 months in 1294, thus making the way for the accession of Pope Boniface VIII. Other suggestions are that the soul is Esau, who renounced his birthright to Jacob of Genesis, or Pontius Pilate, who washed his hands of any responsibility for the death of Christ. Interesting. So those are all interpretations on who that might be. At once I understood with certainty this company contained the cowardly, hateful to God and to his enemies. So to both. These wretched ones who never were alive went naked and were stung again by horseflies and by wasps that circled them. The insects streaked their faces with their blood, which mingled with their tears, fell at their feet, where it was gathered up by sickening worms. So really just, gross symbolism here. And then looking beyond them, I could see a crowd along the bank of a great river, at which I said, allow me now to know who are these people, Master, and what law has made them so eager for the crossing, as I can see despite the feeble light. And he to me, when we have stopped along the melancholy shore of Acheron, then all these matters will be plain to you. At that, with eyes ashamed, downcast and fearing, that what I said had given him offense. I did not speak until we reached the river, and here advancing toward us in a boat, an aged man, his hair was white with years. So really he's like a symbol of Kronos, Father Time, or death in a way to Saturn. He was shouting, woe to you, corrupted souls, forget your hope of ever seeing heaven. I come to lead you to the other shore, to the eternal dark, to fire and frost. So you've got some elemental themes going on here. And you approaching there, you living soul, keep well away from these, they are the dead. But when he saw I made no move to go, he said, another way and other harbors. Not here will bring you passage to your shore. A lighter craft will have to carry you. My guide then, Charon, don't torment yourself. Our passage has been willed above, where one can do what he has willed and ask no more. So one being Source. Source having ultimate authority. Now silence fell upon the woolly cheeks of Charon, pilot of the livid marsh, whose eyes were ringed about with wheels of flame. But all those spirits, naked and exhausted, had lost their color, and they gnashed their teeth as soon as they heard Charon's cruel words. They execrated God and their own parents and humankind, and then the place and time of their conception seed and of their birth. They were upset about everything, it seems. Then they foregathered, huddled in one throng, weeping aloud along that wretched shore which waits for all who have no fear of God. So really who have those who... The way I interpret fear of God esoterically is, not having any reverence for it. Honestly, the higher aspect of yourself, because we understand Source as being what connects all of us, right? So Acheron is the river, the first river to be crossed when entering the underworld. An aged man, Charon, the boatman who ferries souls across the Acheron, Virgil. I don't know why it has Virgil in parentheses, but okay. Alongside devils, fallen angels, Dante includes figures from the classical mythology of the underworld as guardians and ministers in hell, presenting them as grotesque demons. This is a feature of his lower comic style in contrast to his elevated Latin sources. A lighter craft, another boat, that of the saved. Where was that line at? He said, another way, keep well away from these, they are dead. But when he saw I made no move to go, he said, another way and other harbors, not here, will bring you passage to your shore. A lighter craft will have to carry you. So he's talking to Dante there. That of the saved, which is, they talk about in Purgatory, when you get to Purgatory, Canto 2. And then the last note for Canto 3, one God with the power to achieve whatever he wills, ultimate Source. Note 115, seed of Adam, just means human beings descended from Adam and Eve. And I don't know what the note 117 called with the falconer's lure. I'm not sure what they're referring to. When signaled as a falcon called will come. Okay, let's go ahead and read the last of this canto. The demon Charon, with his eyes like embers, by signaling to them, has all embark. His oar strikes anyone who stretches out. As in the autumn, leaves detach themselves, first one and then the other, till the bough sees all its fallen garments on the ground. So it's talking about the shedding of the tree. And that's interesting they say that in reference to Charon, because this is what? Chronos symbology, father time, death. Also depicted as the... Saturn's also depicted as the... any of you who know some of the symbolism of the Master Mason degree too, Saturn is depicted as the man with the sickle. And then you have the Virgo, the Virgin, right? As in the autumn, leaves detach themselves, first one and then the other, till the bough sees all its fallen garments on the ground. Similarly, the evil seed of Adam, descended from the shoreline one by one, when signaled as a falcon called will come, so do they move across the darkened waters, even before they reach the farther shore. New ranks already gather on this bank. My son, the gracious master said to me, those who have died beneath the wrath of God, all these assemble here from every country, and they are eager for the river crossing, because celestial justice spurs them on, so that their fear is turned into desire. No good soul ever takes its passage here. Therefore, if Charon has complained of you, by now you can be sure what his words mean. And after this was said, the darkened plain quaked so tremendously, the memory of terror then bathes me in sweat again. A whirlwind burst out of the tear-drenched earth, a wind that crackled with a blood-red light. So there's a lot going on here. So after this, the darkened plain quaked. Terror bathed Dante in sweat. A whirlwind burst out of the tear-drenched earth, a wind that cracked with a blood-red light, a light that overcame all of my senses, and like a man whom sleep has seized, I fell. Canto 4, Dante's awakening to the first circle, or limbo, inhabited by those who were worthy but lived before Christianity and or without baptism. Once again, viewing this book as from a more esoteric perspective, baptism usually has to do with the element of water. So I see that as having to do with fully integrating the emotions, right? Because water has to do with the emotions, balancing all of those sorts of things. Speaking of water, I do have some water in here. That's what I was thinking about. The Welcoming of Virgil and Dante by Homer, Horace, Ovid, Lucan, the catalog of other great-hearted spirits in the noble castle of Limbo. So Dante wakes up. The heavy sleep within my head was smashed by an enormous thunderclap, so that I started up as one whom force awakens. I stood erect and turned my rested eyes from side to side, and I stared steadily to learn what place it was surrounding me. In truth, I found myself upon the brink of an abyss, the melancholy valley containing thundering, unending wailings. That valley, dark and deep and filled with mist, is such that, though I gazed into its pit, I was unable to discern a thing. So very akin to he even said the word abyss. So, like Da'at. In truth, I found myself upon the brink of an abyss, the melancholy valley containing thundering, unending wailings. That valley, dark and deep and filled with mist, is such that, though I gazed into its pit, I was unable to discern a thing. Let us descend into the blind world now. The poet, who was deathly pale, began, I shall go first, and you will follow me. But I, who'd seen the change in his complexion, said, how shall I go on if you are frightened? You, who have always helped dispel my doubts, and he to me, the anguish of the people whose place is here below, has touched my face with the compassion you mistake for fear. So he feels basically compassion rather than fear. Let us go on, the way that waits is long. So he set out, and so he had me enter on that first circle, girdling the abyss. Here, for as much as hearing could discover, there was no outcry louder than the sights that cause the everlasting air to tremble. Let's go ahead and read the notes from this spot. So this is the first circle, or limbo, of the 9 circles of hell. And then I think, was it with Paradiso? Yeah, so you have the nine rings of hell, or circles. And then you have the 9 transparent circular spheres bearing the heavenly bodies in Paradiso. The moon, Mercury, Venus, the sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and the fixed stars. So is that 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, Prima Mobile, Kethler being the 9th. So it's just all but Mount Kuth. So I guess the gate of hell would be representative of, if you were looking at the tree of death, that would be equivalent to not Gamaliel, but the one before Nama, right? sphere of Nama. Anyway, let's continue. Let us go on. The way that waits is long. So he set out, and so he had me enter. On that first circle girdling the abyss, here, for as much as hearing could discover, there was no outcry louder than the sighs that caused the everlasting air to tremble. The sighs arose from sorrow without torments. Out of the crowds, the many multitudes of infants and of women and of men. The kindly master said, "Do you not ask, who are these spirits whom you see before you? I'd have you know before you go ahead, they did not sin, and yet though they have merits, that's not enough because they lacked baptism, the portal of the faith that you embrace." So once again, we're going to view baptism from more of the element of water, the total integration of emotion. The first circle, limbo, the virtuous unbaptized. An abyss, so going back to line, in truth I found myself upon the brink of an abyss, the melancholy valley. The conical pit of hell leading down to the center of the earth, so it starts bigger. If you've ever seen pictures of the way the circles are, you've got the top circle, and then each one, it goes down into like a cone. Actually, I could probably just look up a picture of it. I'm sure I've probably shown it in previous videos in the playlist, but we can look it up again. An abyss, the conical pit of hell, leading down to the center of the earth. Since ancient times, the underworld had been located beneath the surface of the earth. So that's interesting. So even in pre-Christianity, since ancient times, the underworld had been located beneath the surface of the earth. Its inhabitants were the inferi, the people down below, hence the Italian word inferno, the place below. That first circle, the first of the 9 concentric circles of Dante's hell, is limbo, from the Latin word limbus, which actually means edge. 30, of infants and of women and of men, where we read that. Let me go back. The sighs arose from sorrow without torments. Out of the crowds, the many multitudes of infants and of women and of men. The souls of all those who died unbaptized and are therefore excluded from going to paradise. So it's so dumb that people would like literally believe, all this is true. That's just my interpretation. Of course, everyone is going to have their own like religious beliefs, but it's kind of crazy, The souls of all those who died unbaptized and are therefore excluded from going to paradise. For theologians, the limbo of children was the place where the unbaptized children, the holy innocents, would go after death. Less orthodoxly, Dante includes also the souls of adults who lived well according to human reason and natural ethics, but who never achieved complete spiritual fulfillment by being baptized into the Christian faith. So, kind of these, these medieval viewpoints on spirituality. We realize there's a much more esoteric or more real internal spiritual truths. Doesn't have anything to do about an external religion to find salvation. We're kind of past that now. It's the year 2025 now, I would hope anyway. 36, the note on the portal of the faith, baptism, the first of the 7 Christian sacraments. Of course, we know the symbolism of the number 7 being pretty important. A symbolic washing with water, which admits the person into the church and was regarded as essential for salvation. Interesting that baptisms are usually done in the West, too. We've talked about the symbolism of the West a lot on this YouTube channel. Could do another probably video on the symbolism of the cardinal direction, the West, though. Kind of represents retiring into the West. Usually it's represented by water. I see the West as being air now, the way I do my my workings and stuff, but it could be water too. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, baptism taking place in the West. I just totally lost me. There we go. I don't know if there's anything else I want to do. And if they lived before Christianity, they did not worship God in fitting ways. And of such spirits I myself am one, Virgil says. For these defects, and for no other evil, we now are lost and punished just with this. We have no hope, and yet we live in longing. Great sorrow seized my heart on hearing him, for I had seen some estimable men among the souls suspended in that limbo. Tell me, my master, tell me, Lord, I then began, because I wanted to be certain of that belief which vanquishes all errors. Did any ever go by his own merit or others from this place towards blessedness? And he who understood my covert speech replied, I was new entered on the state when I beheld a great lord enter here. The crown he wore a sign of victory. He carried off the shade of our first father, of his son Abel, and the shade of Noah, of Moses, the obedient legislator, of father Abraham, David the king of Israel, his father, and his sons, and Rachel, she for whom he worked so long, and many others, and he made them blessed. And I should have you know that before them there was no human souls that had been saved. Interesting. I think he's talking about Jesus there. Let's read. Line 42, where it said, for these defects and for no other evil, we are now lost and punished just with this. Virgil says, the souls in limbo desire spiritual fulfillment in paradise, but can never hope to achieve it. So, obviously, I see these interpretations as bullshit, basically. Because just because you weren't around when a certain religion is, existent, and you didn't receive baptism, you don't achieve that grace. I think that's kind of a dumb way to view a lot of these things. So once again, we're digging through this story to kind of get to some of the deeper symbolisms. What kind of esoteric truths can we obtain from this, not getting caught up in the religious dogma of things? View it more from the soul's journey. So maybe it's more about what Christ consciousness actually represents itself. It's not about a religion. It's not about any man. It's about taking that aspect and applying it to yourself, doing better, being a builder, Blessedness, paradise. According to the Christian creed, Athanasian version, whatever that means, between his crucifixion and his resurrection, Christ descended into hell. So that's interesting. Between the crucifixion and his resurrection, he descended into hell. Dante is here inquiring about the belief based on the apocryphal Gospel of Nicodemus. So that's interesting. They're talking about an apocryphal book right here, Dead Sea Scrolls type stuff. That Christ entered limbo, where the souls of the patriarchs, holy women, and the prophets of the Old Testament were waiting, and he led them out to paradise. So that's kind of a cool concept, different idea there. Tell me, my master, tell me, Lord, I then began, because I wanted to be certain of that belief which vanquishes all errors. Did any ever go by his own merit or others from this place towards blessedness? And he who understood my covert speech replied, I was new entered on the state when I beheld a great Lord enter here. So what does he mean there? Wow, there's a lot of notes in this canto. There's a lot of stuff. I should probably just kind of go through like Inferno and just really kind of find where the more esoteric stuff is at. That way I'm not actually having to read every single part. Same with maybe, I should probably just do that with Inferno, Purgatory, and Paradiso. Just go through all of these and just find the more esoteric type stuff, and then basically just present that all in one video. Instead of me going through this whole book, you know, piece by piece like this. Unless you guys are into this, you know, me just like reading through all of this. I don't know how many people are gonna, you know, end up finding value from this video, but we'll see. We'll find out. Yeah, the great Lord is Christ. And by new entered, it means Virgil died in 19 BC, just over 50 years before the traditional date of Christ's death in AD 34. Interesting. First father is Adam, the first man, the ancestors of the entire human race, according to Genesis. Abel, of course, is the son of Adam, was killed by his brother Cain. Noah, the patriarch who built the ark and with his family refounded the human race after the flood. From that story, we know there's a flood story in the Sumerian epic as well, the Sumerian tablets. Moses, the leader of the Israelites and their exodus from Egypt to the Promised Land, and the founder of the Jewish religion and law. Abraham, the ancestor of the Israelites with whom God made a special covenant. So these are just all the Christian patriarch characters, you know. David, the king of Israel and the psalmist. Israel, his father, and his sons Jacob with his father Isaac, and his own 12 sons, the founders of the 12 tribes of Israel. Rachel, Jacob's second wife, whom he won by working for 14 years for her father, Laban. He worked hard for that one, huh? A fire, the shining castle of lines. I didn't get to that part yet. We did not stay our steps, although he spoke. We still continued onward through the wood. The wood, I say, where many spirits thronged. Our path had not gone far beyond the point where I had slept when I beheld a fire went out against a hemisphere of shadows. Shining castle of lines, interesting. We still were at a little distance from it, but not so far I could not see in part that honorable men possess that place. O you who honor art and science both, who are these souls whose dignity has kept their way of being separate from the rest? ? Honorable men, the bright region of limbo is reserved for virtuous non-Christians who, through their contributions to human society and civilization, won enduring fame and honor in life, and are rewarded by God with this special place in the afterlife. You guys get to hang out in limbo. Fun for you. They consist of classical poets, including Virgil himself, Trojan and Roman heroes, pagan philosophers, writers, mathematicians, and doctors, and 3 Muslims of the post-Christian era. The apparent injustice of God's exclusion of good non-Christians from paradise clearly worried Dante, and the poem later contains some exceptions. Here, on the basis of human achievement and fame, he tones down the strict doctrine that all pagans are damned to eternal suffering, whilst preserving the principle that belief in Christ is necessary for salvation. So once again, taking the true unconditional love into your being is really what the true salvation is, you know, tapping into that energy. The estimable poet is Virgil himself. O you who honor art and science both, who are these souls whose dignity has kept their way of being separate from the rest? And he to me the honor of their name, which echoes up above within your life, gains heaven's grace, and that advances them. Meanwhile there was a voice that I could hear, pay honor to the estimable poet. His shadow, which had left us, now returns. After that voice was done, when there was silence, I saw 4 giant shades approaching us. In aspect they were neither sad nor joyous. My kindly master then began by saying, look well at him who holds that sword in hand, who moves before the other 3 as Lord. That shade is Homer, the consummate poet. The other one is Horace, satirist. The third is Ovid, and the last is Lucan. Because each of these spirits shares with me the name called out before by the lone voice, they welcome me, and doing that, do well. And so I saw that splendid school assembled, led by the Lord of Song Incomparable, who, like an eagle, soars above the rest. Soon after they had talked a while together, they turned to me, saluting cordially, and having witnessed this, my master smiled. An even greater honor then was mine, for they invited me to join their ranks. I was the sixth among such intellects. So a joining of the minds, it seems. Homer, the first Greek poet, writer of two epics, the Iliad. So Homer's here, hanging out in limbo, on the war of the Greeks against Troy, and he wrote the Odyssey on the homeward voyage of the Greek Odysseus. Horace, the Roman poet, whose works included satires and medieval literary theory. Satire had a moral purpose in attacking the wicked and was a branch of comedy like Dante's own poem. Ovid, the Roman poet, whose works were Dante's major source for classical myths of love and transformations or metamorphoses. Sounds interesting. Lucan, the Roman poet, whose epic on the Civil War, also known as the Pharsalia, was Dante's main source concerning the civil war between the Roman Republicans and Julius Caesar, the founder of the empire. The name, the title of poet just used by Homer, the Lord Homer, the supreme poet, or perhaps Virgil, the sixth, welcomed among the five pagan poets. Dante expresses his own sense of continuity with and debt to the classical tradition. So did we move along and toward the light, talking of things about which silenced here is just as seemly as our speech was there. We reached the base of an exalted castle, encircled 7 times by towering walls, defended all around by a fair stream. We forded this as if upon hard ground. I entered 7 portals with these sages. There's that number again, 7, 2 times there. Well, it says the castle's encircled 7 times by towering walls, but then it says there's 7 portals. We reached a meadow of green flowering plants. The people here had eyes, both grave and slow. Their features carried great authority. They spoke infrequently with gentle voices. We drew aside to one part of the meadow, an open place both high and filled with light, and we could see all those who were assembled. Facing me there, on the enameled green, great-hearted souls were shown to me, and I still glory in my having witnessed them. I saw Electra with her many comrades, among whom I knew Hector and Aeneas, and Caesar in his armor, falcon-eyed. I saw Camilla in Penthesilea, and on the other side saw King Latinus, who sat beside Lavinia, his daughter. I saw Brutus, who drove Tarquin out, Lucretia, Julia, Marcia, and Cornelia, and solitary set-apart Saladin. When I had raised my eyes a little higher, I saw the master of the men who know, seated in philosophic family. There all look up to him, all do him honor. There I beheld both Socrates and Plato. So you have all these really wise people just hanging out in limbo together. Closest to him in front of all the rest, Democritus, who ascribes the world to chance, Diogenes, Empedocles, and Zeno, and Thales, Anaxagoras, probably, Heraclitus. I saw the good collector of medicinals, Dioscorides, I'm probably butchering that, and I saw Orpheus and Ptolemy, Linus, Moral, Seneca, and Euclid, the geometer, and Ptolemy, Hippocrates, is that how you say that? And Galen, Avicenna, Aviores of the Great Commentary. I cannot here describe them all in full. My ample theme impels me onward, so what's told is often less than the event. The company of 6 divides in 2. My knowing guide leads me another way. beyond the quiet into trembling air, and I have reached a part where no thing gleams. So that's the end of Canto 4. Let me go ahead and read the rest of the notes. Actually, a lot of those characters, I'm not going to read all these. Oh, line of 104. Oh, 104. So do we move along toward the light, talking of things about which silence here is just as seemly as our speech was there. So symbolically, moving towards the light. There's symbolism in just that. They're talking about things, presumably the secrets of their shared art of poetry, unsuitable for revelation to the layperson. An exalted castle, perhaps a symbol of human wisdom or fame, surrounded by the river of eloquence and with 7 walls and gates, the 7 liberal arts of the medieval educational system. There we go, the 7 liberal arts and sciences. I've been studying a lot on that lately. A meadow. This part of Dante's limbo resembles the Elysian fields visited by Aeneas, Virgil. What line was that? 111. I entered 7 portals with these sages. We reached a meadow of green flowering plants. Okay. Electra, the mother of Dardanus, the founder of Troy. Her comrades are therefore Trojans. I'm not going to go into all these characters. Unless I see something. Saladin, Sultan of Egypt. He inflicted a series of defeats on the Crusaders, but became renowned in the West for his nobility and generosity. I think he's a key character in the Dante video game too. The master Aristotle, the Greek philosopher who here defined as supreme in the field of human knowledge. By Dante's time, his works, translated into Latin, were seen as providing a comprehensive rational system of thought, which could be used in the service of theology, the study of the divinely revealed doctrines of the Christian faith. The following impressive list of names, and most were little more than names to Dante and his earliest audience, summarizes the history of human thought from ancient Greece and Rome up to 2 medieval Muslim scholars, and expresses Dante's belief that all human beings should use their reason in the pursuit of knowledge and fame, even though these can be perfected only by higher Christian truths and eternal salvation, really just by true, higher, like esoteric truths. And it's funny, he talks about, because it kind of picks up from the theme we were following in the Secret Teachings of All Ages from reading the beginning of that book. The whole idea of the history of human thought from ancient Greece and Rome up to the 2 medieval Muslim scholars. Socrates and Plato, the Greek philosopher Socrates and his pupil Plato, Aristotle's teacher. Democritus, Greek philosopher, believed to have thought that the universe, composed of tiny bodies or atoms, was the result of mere chance. Diogenes, the Cynic philosopher, famous for having expressed his rejection of material desires by living in a tub. I think I heard a story about him, like the people just let him like chill in the city in a tub or something along those lines. I think that was actually in the Secret Teachings of All Ages, the last video. I don't know if we got that far in the book, but I remember hearing that in the audiobook for the Secret Teachings of All Ages. Empedocles, whose doctrine of the universe as based on love and strife was known to Dante. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism. There's a couple other philosophers here. Gorides, Greek physician and writer of a treatise on the medical properties of plants. Orpheus, a mythical Greek poet who enchanted the beasts, trees, and stones with his music. Reminds me of Pythagoras a bit. Seneca, Roman philosopher and tragedy writer, believed to have also written 2 important moral works on the 4 cardinal virtues. So there you go. You have that's an important theme in Freemasonry, and on remedies against fortune. Euclid, Greek mathematician, famous for his geometry. Ptolemy, Greek mathematician and astronomer from Egypt, whose system of the 9 heavenly spheres revolving around the stationary Earth was the basis of astronomy and cosmology throughout the Middle Ages. Hippocrates, or however you say his name, Greek physician known as the father of medicine. All right, so yeah, guys, and the music just stopped in the background too, so we will go ahead and end the video here. I don't know if I'll get around to posting this tonight, but I will post this video soon. And I think I was trying to figure out from the poll, I had you guys vote on the poll and stuff, to see what book you wanted me to read from the most. And it seemed that the Divine Comedy, at first it seemed like it was winning or it had the most votes, but it seems like maybe the Secret Teachings of All Ages actually had more votes. So I do plan on doing more YouTube videos very soon, so definitely stay tuned, and I will see you all very soon. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you like this material, if you gain some value from it. Be sure to, if you like my other material on my YouTube channel as well, be sure to go and check out my Patreon as well. So, all right, peace and blessings, everyone, and until next time, take care.